The following is a local resident producers program. The program content is the sole responsibility of the producer and does not necessarily reflect the views or policies of CATV2, Oshkosh Community Access Television, the City of Oshkosh, the Oshkosh Cable Television Advisory Commission, or Time Warner Cable.
Hi everyone, welcome to another edition of Eye on Oshkosh. I'm Cheryl Hentz, along with former Oshkosh Mayor and City Councilwoman Melanie Bloechl. On Tuesday, September 14th, voters in Winnebago County will be going to the polls, voting in a number of different races, one of which is for Register of Deeds. We are very pleased to welcome to this edition Julie Pagel. She is one of 4 contestants, all Republicans, who are running for the office of Register of Deeds. Before we actually start talking with Julie, I just want to say that regrettably, 2 of the 4 candidates, Kathy Steinert and Heidi Turner, will not be appearing on Eye on Oshkosh at any time. They were invited, both declined. They feel that well, I guess they feel we're biased because we circulated nomination papers for Mrs. Pagel. You know, that's unfortunate because anyone who watches our show, I think, knows that whatever our political positions are, no matter whether we agree or disagree with someone, we've always been hospitable, gracious hosts. We've been fair and honest with people, and we've never been biased in our questioning. I think that you know, even though our feelings are not hurt that Mrs. Turner and Mrs. Steinert are not coming on the show, I think that this is showing you, the voters, the ultimate disrespect. They're disenfranchising you folks by not allowing you to hear what they have to say or telling you why they should be worthy of your votes. So I guess, you know, based on that, I personally won't be able to vote for them. I can't give a vote of confidence to a ghost. That being said, I'd like to welcome the first of 2 Register of Deeds candidates, who's gracious and smart enough to appear here, Julie Pagel. And in the second half of this particular show, Louise Schoenike will be joining us also. So, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. Why don't we start you telling us a little bit about yourself and why you're running for Register of Deeds?
Okay. Well, let's see. Start off, I'm married to Gary, 22 years. I have 2 grown children. I have been working at the courthouse since 1977. I was 19 when I started working there, so it's just a babe.
Time goes fast, doesn't it,
Oh,
Julie?
it's scary. But obviously, it's my second home. I love working at the courthouse. I always have. I just enjoy the atmosphere there and the people and just really enjoy it. Currently, I'm working for Judge Carver as a judicial assistant. I've been doing that for about the last 6.5 years. Prior to that, I worked for Paul Swanson, a private attorney, for about 1.5 years. And before that, I was clerk of courts for 8 years. So I started out as a deputy clerk, working in the clerk of court's office in the criminal traffic division. Then I was elected, and after 8 years, I lost that position. So just coming back to the present, I did come back to work for Judge Carver. I took the opportunity to come back to the courthouse as soon as it presented itself. So here I am.
Well, Julie, with that, talking about your background, and because the position that you're running for Register of Deeds, I guess I view it as a primarily administrative position. I think one of the things that I'd like to get out of the way right out of the chute, and I apologize if this seems a little abrupt or abrasive, one of the things was a controversy that took place in your office when you were the clerk of courts. Okay. There was a situation where one of your employees was caught stealing, and there are some people in the community that may still believe somehow you were negligent because of this occurrence. Can you kind of recap for us this situation, kind of the Reader's Digest version, if you can?
Sure.
How much money was involved in these thefts, and how was the theft discovered, and what role did you play in bringing this all to a head or resolving this?
Okay. I took a lot of criticism during that campaign by my opponent and other people because they felt that because the theft itself happened, I was at fault. Well, I'm here to tell the whole world that anybody can embezzle money. They can figure out a way, and it was done very cleverly. It was in the child support division of the office. Back then, it was before the KIDS program came on, the statewide program. It was an old, antiquated computer program, and one of the clerks there, who I trusted, certainly, she figured out a way, a very clever way, to change receipts and take small amounts of cash out of the cash drawer while no one was looking. We used to balance over the lunch hour normally because it would take all morning to run the child support receipts. She would take money only out of certain accounts that the money was going to the state because mom was on AFDC.
Okay.
So, because if a woman was expecting a check for $150 and she only got $100, she'd be screaming, you know,
Sure.
she'd be calling the office and why is my check short?
And that would have been caught much sooner.
Oh, right.
Sure.
So she made sure she only did it on the AFDC accounts.
Money going to the state.
To the state. And the
Okay.
state would have no idea how much should be coming in as long as there was money coming in.
Okay.
So it was hidden very well. And as it turns out, the day I discovered it, we were off literally like 2 cents on almost $200,000 deposit. And the gals there, they couldn't balance, so they came to me, and again, it was over the lunch hour, and I came in and I went through it. I didn't find it at first either. And I said, we're going to have to go through this one transaction at a time, even the batch receipts, which is another place where she hid it. Well, I found, before I even found the 2 cents, I discovered that there was $60 missing. And I realized what was going on. It was just staring at me in the face once you saw it. And so I had a staff meeting and I confronted the people and I told them, you know, I know what's happening. Someone needs to come forward. And sure enough, the very next day she came to my house with the $60, this person did. So I discovered it. I was the person who got the confession out of her. She was fired. She lost her employment. She went to jail. She was convicted, and the full restitution was made. And I want to say it was between $6,000 and $8,000. I don't really remember the exact amount.
And how long of a period of time did this theft occur over?
I think it was about a year,
And you
if
were
I remember right.
And if I remember correctly, you were in this office 7, 8 years?
8 years.
8
by
years,
that time.
and it was the latter part of your term, the beginning part.
Oh, it was the latter part. Yeah, it
The
was
latter
the
part.
last year. Sure.
And in order for this not to happen again, what changed in your office so that something like this didn't happen?
Well, after being told for literally years that this old computer system could not be changed or altered or fixed because the state was coming in with their new program, the county did not want to pay for any kind of upgrade, understandably.
Sure.
Within hours, they had a fix in there.
After this was discovered?
Right.
Oh, great.
That afternoon, literally, they
Really?
changed it, yes, so that no one could change a receipt. It's just like if you go to a grocery store and they make a mistake, somebody else has to come over, a supervisor has to come over and validate that change. Well, that's the change that they made that afternoon. So
Just to recap this, so in the latter part of your term, over approximately a year period of time, about $6,000 was taken.
Right.
You were the one who discovered it.
Right.
You were the one who actually confronted the individual responsible, got a confession, ended up finding a way for prosecution and restitution,
Right.
and yet somehow dispersions are cast on your character as being incompetent,
That's
potentially.
Sure. Sure.
So I guess the bottom line here is that we've seen, at least for me, there are people that are clever enough, even with technology now, that can find ways.
Sure.
They're so smart, they can find ways of being illegal if they would take that much time to be legal, they'd be geniuses. But
Right.
I wanted that out of the way because there's always going to be talk about that, Julie, and I think you know that, I know that, and I think that's something important that people need to understand about, you know, some of the history of what's gone on with you.
Right. There's always going to be people that criticize me over that whole issue, and as far as I'm concerned, I feel that it was good management.
That you
I mean,
found it,
this
right.
could have gone on until the conversion to the kids program.
Which took how much longer?
By the end of the year.
By the end of the
It
year.
would have been another 6 months of it, or so, something like that it was.
Okay.
So,
And I'm sure that if anybody wants, if they doubt your word, I'm sure that this is all a matter of public record and they can
sure.
check it out and look
Sure.
it up. Okay. That said, let's talk specifically about the Register of Deeds office and your candidacy. I don't think a lot of people really know what the office is or does.
Okay.
Can you kind of shed some light on that for us?
Sure. And quite frankly, I'll have a lot to learn myself. It is an administrative position, but basically what the Register of Deeds office is responsible for is the documentation of all land records in the county, all vital statistics, marriage, birth, death records, things like that. So at this point, Sue Winninghoff, who's been the Register of Deeds for the last 10 years, she's retiring come January 1. She has had a long-range plan, and she has put a lot of automation into that office, done a terrific job. And there are certain parts that still need to be automated, specifically the vital statistics in the basement.
Okay.
So that would be my first priority. Because they do have like a cash register down there, but nothing is automated. And having gone through what I did, you know,
Bingo.
not to say that, you know, I don't trust people, but it's, you know, for my own,
Once bitten, twice shy.
exactly,
Yeah.
for my own well-being, I think. And that is in the long-range plan, so it's not like it hasn't been taken a look at. So that would be my first priority. Basically, I didn't answer your question as to why I was running before. I got off on another subject, but basically, I just feel like I have great management skills. I really enjoy that type of a position. I think I'm good at it. My employees always told me they enjoyed working for me, that I was fair. Above all else, I was fair to people. I have a lot of administrative experience. I have a lot of budget experience. I used to take care of 10 budgets, not just the clerk of court's office. I used to produce 10 budgets. I had to do them all for the courts as well. Family Court Commissioner's Office, and so they're right there. That experience alone is huge. I mean, that's a big undertaking every year. And again, with all of the computer conversion that needs to be done, I've gone through 2 major computerization conversions. When I first became clerk of courts, the only thing that was automated was, like I say, that old child support program. I oversaw the whole automation of the criminal traffic division, the civil division, the small claims, the juvenile court, the whole office.
Wow.
And that was, you know, it took quite a few years to get everything online. Then, of course, then there was the conversion to kids right before I had to leave that office. Put in many, many, many hours, helped get all the records cleared up on that. So I've been through 2 major computerizations.
Okay. Well, as we mentioned a couple of times, it does seem more like an administrative position, I guess, than anything else. In your opinion, Julie, do you think that it should be an elected position, or should it be one more of where folks who are interested in the job, they apply and get interviewed and get hired, like most of us in the
Right.
workaday world?
Right. Well, I don't know. I kind of swing back and forth because a lot of people just feel that we need these elected positions. And it's only fair that the public decide who runs certain offices. But then again, for an elected position, it's not one where we create laws or change laws or anything like that. You know, we can lobby for certain changes that we want, but we're not responsible for that. So overall, I guess I'm satisfied with it being an elected position.
Should it be a bipartisan position?
Now you're really going to put me on the spot. Huh?
Well, I think that's a fair question, though,
It is.
because I mean, you know, can a Democrat handle
Right.
vital statistics any better than a Republican
Right.
or an independent, or as we're seeing in this campaign, a lot of Green candidates too.
Yeah.
So
I personally don't think the party you belong to has anything to do with how you're going to run the office.
okay. One of the candidates running against you, as I mentioned in the opening, is Kathy Steinert, and I saw her campaign literature, and she's got on there that one time she was your deputy clerk of courts. Now, how does it feel? And maybe it doesn't matter, but how does it feel? You know, having someone who was a deputy underneath you, now running against you after you've worked with someone and you've trained them and so forth, or does it not matter?
Well, okay, see, I need to clarify this. When I was clerk of courts, everyone in the office was deputized. They needed to be, because you need to certify records, you need to go into the courtroom to swear people in and things like that. But at no time was Kathy Steinert ever the deputy clerk of courts. Jewel Kempinger was the deputy clerk of courts. During my whole tenure, the clerk before me, and I believe she was deputy clerk of courts for the current clerk of courts for the first 6 months of the new clerk's term. Jewel retired in June of '97, it would have been.
Okay, so I'm confused here. So this is
I
just
am
a big
too.
fat lie? I mean, I'm sorry. You know,
It's her material, but that is a misrepresentation as far as I'm concerned. I think she's implying that she was the deputy clerk of courts, but that's not true. She's probably saying that because she was a deputy.
she was deputized. And there's a difference because one is a
Yes.
title and one is actually a function you have to be deputized in order to
Right.
provide function.
Right.
Well, and I apologize for saying it like that to you, like you were going to answer that it was a big fat lie. But, you know, when I get campaign literature and it's hung on a door, you know, and it says, Kathy worked as the deputy clerk of courts for Winnebago County from 1990 to 1998. I mean, okay. So
No,
that just simply is not.
She worked in the office during those years, and she was deputized. But she was an account clerk. She worked in the child support division and the accounts.
Okay.
it-
Well,
it's-
unfortunately, we won't be able to talk to
We
Mrs.
won't-
Steinert
no.
about the discrepancies in her literature, which is kind of bothersome. But we'll make note of that. And anyway, I'm sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt.
That's all right. You know, we don't know much about the current Register of Deeds, Sue Winninghoff, but she does seem to have kind of a hands-on style of management, and that's
Very
not
much
a
so.
bad thing at all.
No.
As you well know, what kind of a manager, if you're elected, will you be in that office?
That's exactly the kind of manager I like to be. What I would like to do is, if I win this position, is spend a week with each person in the office and really get to learn their jobs. I mean, I know it's going to take longer than that,
Sure.
obviously. Like I say, I have a lot to learn. But I like helping out with the daily routines, the daily processes that go on. I think that's really the only way you can learn about the whole entire office is if you do those jobs. So I have always had an open door policy. I've always been accessible. I think another advantage I bring to this is that I have worked, obviously, in 27 years with all the local attorneys, have a good working relationship with all the attorneys, and the Register of Deeds office works with many of them. So that would be an easy transition for me. I know these people already, and mutual respect there, and so that's another plus as far as I'm concerned.
What professional skills would you bring to the table in running the Register of Deeds office? You know, the hard, tangible, quantifiable skills
Okay.
that qualify, if you will. Because
Okay.
let's be honest, a lot of people really don't know what those skills. I mean, what is it that it takes to be a good Register of Deeds? You know, and a lot of people don't know because I think that it's been a very seamless transaction. Marge Doms did it for many, many years. Sue stepped into the position. There's never been a problem with anyone receiving good customer service, quality care. It's been a very seamless, effortless. It seemed to be effortless. So you know that the people that had been there before really did a good job.
Yes. Yes.
So what kind of skills or professional strengths do you think you bring into that arena?
Well, like specifically, I think my management skills.
Okay.
I think if you talk to many of my former employees that worked for me, would tell you that. Like I said, having a hands-on approach, knowing the day-to-day operations, coming into this, knowing the budget process, understanding the county structure, the various committees with the county board, having a relationship with those people, understanding what needs to be done to report to those people, what's important.
What about, now this might be a more difficult question because I know a lot of people, while you would be an elected administrator for all intents and purposes in the Register of Deeds office, the county executive still has a lot of control over that budget on who gets what, who gets, where it's going to go. Do you envision that there's going to be any kind of issues with the county executive? Do you feel as though that's going to be, or do you feel as though you can justify what you need by virtue of your management skills and knowing how these offices should be run because you've done it before?
Right. Oh, I certainly wouldn't expect any, problem there.
Okay.
When I was clerk for 8 years, if I needed something in the budget, I put it in. And, I was never one to be padding the budget or anything like that, heaven forbid.
Yeah.
And if I needed something, I went to the county board and I explained why I needed it. And I don't think there was really a time where I was ever actually turned down. I think I could justify it. And I can't imagine that would be any different with Jane. I mean, she was always around when I was clerk of courts too, and we got along well, worked together fine. So I don't foresee any problem. No.
How large of a staff does Sue Winninghoff have, and what's the operating budget? Do you know offhand?
There are, I believe, 8 employees currently.
Wow, full time?
Yes.
Wow.
And I'm not sure of the exact operating budget, but I can tell you that the Register of Deeds is one of the few offices in the county that actually generates revenue.
Right.
That
That
pays
was
for
going to be one of
itself
my
above
next
and beyond.
questions, actually.
Exactly.
Last year it was almost $1 million that went into the general fund from the Register of Deeds office after paying for the expenses.
Yeah. Why don't I jump to that question,
No, I
if
was
you
just
don't
gonna
mind
say,
my just
sure,
jumping
go
in
right
here,
ahead.
since Julie brought it up and gave me that little segue there. Because it's one of the few that is so revenue generating, do you think that the fees that are charged by that office, and I don't know what they are offhand, but do you think that they are reasonable, or do you think that they could be lower, or more importantly, do you think that they're maybe helping to carry the weight for some of the other non-revenue generating departments in the county?
No, the fees that are set are statutory.
Oh, they are?
Yes.
Okay.
So the Register of Deeds would have no control over that. The state mandates many things up like that. And I know Sue is currently working on contracting with some of the abstract companies so that they can obtain some of this information directly online instead of having to come in and do a lot of searching and paying employees to be there. But the cost of the contract will hopefully offset the amount of money that they're paying staff.
So this then, Julie, is something different from like marriage licenses and birth certificates wasn't that just a couple of years ago that they raised the price on that? Or was that too raised statewide under statutes?
Anything, right, if it was raised,
Okay.
yes. It's,
All right.
all those fees are mandated by the state.
And I think one of the problems, and I remember Sue Winninghoff, I thought she did a really excellent job on this too. When Sue had, when the fee structure went up, and she thought it was kind of a ridiculous amount because it kind of jumped pretty significantly in some of those areas.
Not unusual.
Yeah, and she actually lobbied the legislature, went to the media and said, hey, wait a minute, the lion's share of these fees is going to the state,
Right.
and we're not receiving a whole lot back
Yes.
in relief, and we're doing the work here.
Right.
Do you have a problem doing things like that with going to the legislature or a legislator or
Not at all.
the media? I mean, I've never known you to be particularly shy, but I mean, that's a real different arena. You know, I mean, would you see yourself having a problem or?
No, not at all. I did that on several occasions as clerk of courts.
Okay.
Felt that certain things should be changed, or I'm trying to remember an instance, nothing really drastic comes to the top of my head, but I do remember speaking with assembly people and senators about certain issues that I felt strongly about, and no, certainly that wouldn't be a problem for me at all.
We're down to about 3 minutes, and I want to give you about 30 to 45 seconds to kind of, at the end, tell people why they should vote for you. But, you know, speaking of change and so forth, I know you've not worked in the office yet. You've got a lot of things to learn about the office if you're elected. But based upon what you do know of it, Julie, is there anything offhand that you can think of that immediately that you'd like to change if you are elected?
No, I don't want to go in there and make any sweeping changes. Number one, the office is incredibly well run. They have a great staff. The staff is very happy, and they're very public service oriented. No, there's nothing that I would absolutely go in and change. But like I said, my very first priority would be to automate the remaining section that's not. So.
You got a quick, like, 1-minute question?
No, none of mine are ever 1-minute questions. I could ask the 1-minute question, but then Julie would have no time to answer it.
I'll ask a quick 1-minute question. We talked about your professional skills that you'd bring to the table. What personal skills would you have that you would be able to transfer?
I believe I have an ability to get along with everybody, and like I say, I believe I'm a very fair manager. If there's problems, I want everyone to feel comfortable coming to me, and I will do what I can without creating any kind of rifts, you know, things like that. I just think I'm just known for being fair, and I think that's real important when you're a manager.
Okay. All right. We are just about out of time. Why don't you look into camera 3 there, Julie, and take about 45 seconds and tell folks why they should vote for you on September 14th.
September 14th, yes. I want to point out that there are 4 of us running, and it's all under the Republican Party. So the September primary will decide the election. So it's very important to remind people to get out and vote on September 14th. I believe I have the strongest background. I have the most management experience, budgeting experience. I've been in an elected position before, and I can guarantee the public that I would work my hardest, I would do a great job in that position.
Okay, very good. Thanks very much for being here. We know campaign seasons are hectic at best.
Yes,
but
very much.
We appreciate you taking the time out.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks.
We're going to take a very short 2-minute break. At least it seems short on this end. And, and on the other side, we'll meet one of the other candidates for Register of Deeds, Louise Schoenike. We'll be right back.
Good evening. Follow me, please.
Imagine what America would be like today if Martin Luther King never had a dream. Help keep the dream alive. To find out more about the Martin Luther King Memorial in Washington, D.C., call or log on now.
Oshkosh Community Access TV2 is your local sports channel. Follow your favorite Oshkosh teams each week as CATV2 presents the high school game of the week. Besides football and basketball, we feature soccer, gymnastics, swimming, wrestling, and volleyball. Sundays at 8, Mondays at noon, and Wednesdays at 8, CATV2 is the place to be for high school sports. The high school game of the week, here on Oshkosh Community Access TV2.
I want to
Have an impact.
make a difference.
I want my voice to be heard.
Take matters into your own hands. Smack down your vote for the candidates who represent you and the issues you care about. Make time on Election Day to vote in elections in your community.
Have an impact.
Make a difference.
Let your voice be heard.
To learn more about the candidates where you live, contact the League in your state or community through lwv.org.
Smack down your vote on Election Day.
The Friends of OCAT is a nonprofit group that supports Oshkosh Community Access Television programming and facilities. The Friends sponsor membership, underwriting, and fundraising projects. Their mission is to provide quality programming, to plan and implement fundraising activities, to develop a supportive membership, and to raise awareness of OCAT. If you would like to become a member and support Oshkosh Community Access Television, buy an OCAT card and enjoy discounts at many local businesses. Thanks for viewing OCAT.
Hi, and welcome back to the second half of Eye on Oshkosh. I'm Cheryl Hentz, and Melanie Bloechl, former Oshkosh Mayor and Councilwoman, is at my side as usual. We are very pleased to be joined in this half of this edition of Eye on Oshkosh by one of the other Republican candidates for Register of Deeds, Louise Schoenike. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you
We
for
appreciate
inviting me.
And just relax. It's all going to be okay. Forget about the cameras. Why don't we start out like we do with all candidates for public office, you telling us a little bit about yourself and why you're running for Register of Deeds.
I'm happily married to Paul, have been for 12 and a half years. We have 2 children. I started out my career back in 1984 at the age of 17 working for a title and abstract company. Where I remained for 14 years, worked closely with the Register of Deeds office, got to know everybody that works in there. I left there to pursue a career in a financial institution. I was assistant manager at a branch office in Winnebago County for 2 years. I currently work at the UW Oshkosh Credit Union, where I have done everything from being a teller to mortgage closings, loan processing. It's a small credit union, so basically
At least they don't have you swamping toilets or something. That's
no, we have a cleaning person to do that.
So you still maintain then, even in your current job, a fair amount of contact with the Register of Deeds office then, I'm assuming?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. In the first half, well, as you know, because you were here waiting to make the switch, we did talk with Julie Pagel. And she gave us kind of a brief overview as to what the office does. Just in case someone is just joining us and maybe missed that, can you enlighten viewers as to what the Office of Register of Deeds does? Because let's face it, most people don't have a clue.
No, they don't. Most people have never even really heard of it. They do maintain all the land records for the county. When a property is sold, mortgaged, easements, anything pertaining to land, they maintain all those records. They maintain the vital statistic records. They do not, like when you buy a marriage license, you get that at the county clerk's office. But the actual records are kept in the Register of Deeds office.
So if you need a copy at some point,
then you would go to
them.
right.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
They, as far as I know, because I know they did this back when I worked at the title company, they also maintain the federal tax lien records for the county.
Okay.
Because those do attach to land.
Okay. Well, it does seem to be more of an administrative position. The more we hear about it, the more we talk about it, than it does an elected position. Right. And it's also a partisan position. And I don't really understand the logic behind that. What do you feel, first of all, that it should be an elected position, or should it be an office type position where you apply for a job, you get interviewed, there are other candidates, and the most qualified person is given the position for an indefinite period of time? And then with that, do you think that it should be a partisan position since it is elected?
Unfortunately, it's probably always going to be an elected position. I do believe, though, that the voters need to take a closer look at the candidates and the experience they can bring to it, rather than just being familiar with a name. They need to be educated about each candidate when they go to the polls and vote. As far as the party thing, well, you got to be something, I guess.
Okay. No, I like that attitude. I like it. Well, you got to pick it. I don't know why. But what can I ask you? That was very good. It's, in politics, you need humor, and
I have a lot of that.
You're going to need humor. because that whole partisan politics thing, it does seem kind of, I mean, not that you said it was ridiculous, I'm saying it is. It seems rather ridiculous to me that, you know, a Republican can document your vital statistics any better than a Democrat or an independent or a Green or whatever. But have you always been a Republican? What drew you to the Republican Party? I mean, it's interesting that everyone that's running is a Republican. I just, that dynamic in and of itself is very interesting, that everybody is a Republican. And I can tell you why I ran as a Republican, because I knew Winnebago County was Republican.
Exactly.
I mean, and I'll be honest with you, I mean, I'd be lying if I said anything else, because it wasn't that I was so much a Republican.
Right.
You know, it was, you knew that Winnebago County was a Republican stronghold, and that was the way the wind blew. I mean...
That's pretty much, I mean, I guess when it comes to voting, for the most part, I have voted Republican, but I don't vote a straight ticket.
You vote for the people. And
Exactly. Whether
and
they're, you know, Democrat, Republican, whatever.
Right.
And like you said, the reason that I chose the Republican Party was because if you're not a Republican in Winnebago County, you're not in position.
Right. and that is the honest gospel truth. I mean, it's sad, but it's true.
Right.
Obviously, working for a title and abstract company in your past, you're really familiar with the office and having professional skills that you bring to the table, having worked in that capacity. Can you tell us, you know, specifically what you think those skills are that would make you the best choice for Register of Deeds? You know, what kind of, not just professional skills, but personality traits and so forth that might meld well with this kind of office, and because you know the personnel?
Right. Well, knowing the personnel helps, obviously. Knowing what the office actually does and being familiar with the records and how they are kept is a bonus. You know, I just...
These are tough questions because they're really kind of, you know, this big open-ended thing.
Right.
You know, and it's hard for people, I know, because I remember having to do these kinds of things and you feel like you're just going to, you know, and then people are asking you to tell all about yourself and you're like, oh, please don't ask me that.
Right.
Without trying to make it sound like you're patting yourself on the back, because I know that's difficult for people to say good things about themselves, but we really do want to hear the things that you think are most positive about you. You know, personality traits. Are you a hands-on kind of person? Are you, hey, you know, I think the personnel that's there really knows what's going on. I'm going to let them do their job, and if they need me, they can call upon me. You know, are you passive aggressive? Do you throw crap across the room? I don't know. You know, I mean, everybody has different things that they kind of bring to the table that that seem to benefit as a whole. You know, and you, like you just said, you have humor, and I think that's always a good thing, because that office can probably get pretty stressful at any given time with the level of work that gets filtered through there. So I said, you know, that's one thing that I would find to be a positive, that you have a very nice personality and you seem very open and friendly, and you got humor, and God knows you're going to need it, you know.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, are there other things about yourself? I mean, hands-on, hands-off? How do you...
definitely hands-on.
Hands-on?
Yes.
Okay.
I am definitely hands-on. I don't want to be the kind of boss, I guess you could say, that sits in their office and, you know, talks to their friends and makes lunch appointments. I want to be working the counter.
Okay.
I want to be out there for the public, you know, for the staff, helping out, doing whatever I can, not just delegating.
Okay. Fair enough.
How much, you mentioned working with the public at the counter, and here again, this is probably my own naivete about the office, but since so many people don't really even know what the Register of Deeds office is there a lot of contact with the public in that office, or is it mostly with real estate folks, bankers, lawyers, as Julie Pagel had mentioned when she was on, or is it an even mix?
You don't get a lot of the general public coming in. You know, sometimes if there's family land transactions or something, they would come in. But for the most part, you have your title companies, you have your lawyers, lenders. That's basically the majority of the people that walk through the doors.
So that probably, I guess the audience could probably look at that a couple of different ways. On the one hand, well, I don't have any contact with the office, so what do I care who gets elected?
Right.
Check the first name on the ballot, or the name that
That's
looks...
mine.
Or the one that looks most familiar, or the
Now
one
we'll get sued for endorsing. Yeah.
or the one that, well, I'm giving you plenty of options here. Or the one that flows off your tongue the easiest, I don't know. But on the other hand, because the public is having its records, I may not have contact with the office, but as a property owner, my records are there.
Correct.
Having been born, my records are there. So I think it is important for people to know who's running
yes.
that office, despite the fact that you may never in your entire adult life have any contact with them. They're still providing a vital, vital service. No pun intended there. And I guess that's why we're grateful that you're here, because as you probably heard, 2 of the 4 candidates will not be here.
Right.
And that's unfortunate, and we're not asking you to comment on that, because I commented enough for all 3 of us at this table about that. But it's unfortunate that they won't get to know, they being the audience, get to know very much, if anything, about the other 2 candidates. And so I wanted to thank you for coming.
Oh, I appreciate
You
it.
had a question?
Yeah, I know I had actually run for Register of Deeds some time
I had
ago.
your sign in my yard.
Yeah, well, thank you. Didn't do so well, though.
Well, that's because I lived across from Dolores Turkey.
At that time, there was a relatively new system that was coming online, the GIS Wings program. Are you familiar with that at all?
The wings?
That's
That's the mapping part, is it not?
Yeah, and,
Yes.
and it was kind of like an overlapping system that had the counties interlocking information, so that if you were looking for something, you went through a computer system that you could learn an awful lot about a single parcel of property, where utilities potentially were, where the lot lines were, assessments and so forth.
Right.
One of the things that I always wanted to know, working with the city the way that I have, we have the assessor's office, and people can get on a computer and they can find out an awful lot via their home computer, through the websites and so forth, through the assessor's office. Is the information, and you may not know this, and I apologize, because obviously you haven't had a chance to know what the questions are, but this is more of a curiosity thing. If someone like myself, if I wanted to find out something within the Register of Deeds office, can I get on the computer, like, say, the county website or something, and get into Register of Deeds records, or are those considered kind of sealed off?
No, they are public.
Okay.
Those records are public. At the current time, I don't think the online system is operational. I know they are implementing that.
Okay.
They invited the lenders and the title companies to the Register of Deeds office to show them the system, explain it to them, the charges involved and, how to use it. But I don't think that's available yet. I do believe it will be available to anyone that wants to pay whatever the charge is.
To be able to access from your home.
Correct.
And those would probably be only people that would do this on a regular basis. Like
Right.
Joe Blow citizen isn't going to use it enough to
No.
warrant paying a fee.
Right.
Now, see, that's interesting. Why would I get in? You may not know the answer. Why would they charge to get public records?
Well, it's a convenience
Yeah.
to be able to access it from home rather than to have to go down to the Register of Deeds office. And the system does probably cost quite a bit of money, so they have to somehow pay for that.
Sure. Well, if they're going to charge for it, I do hope that it's set up in a more user-friendly fashion than the property records are, because I got to tell you, the county system stinks to high heaven looking for property records. The city has a much better system. So if they're going to charge for it, it better be user-friendly. Now, we talked a little bit with Julie about the staff size of the Register of Deeds, and she thought that it was 8 full-time people. Do you feel that size is large enough to adequately serve the needs of the people of Winnebago County? Do you think it's too small, too large, or just right?
I think it's fine the way it is. The only thing that I would like to see more of is cross-training. The girls that work downstairs in the vital statistics, there's 2 of them. And I am not sure if the girls upstairs in the land records portion can cover, you know, for vacations or sick days or anything like that.
Sure.
I want to make sure that that's, because that way you're always covered with staff.
Sure. Do you think that that will be difficult, because some of those ladies that have been in that office have been there
Forever.
quite a long time?
Oh, yeah.
And that's no insult or anything. I think that's wonderful that people are happy in what they do and they want to stay. But do you think that that cross-training, you know, sometimes people and change don't always go well together, you know, and people get nervous. You know, oh my God, I'm being cross-trained. And, you know, you get in that comfort zone of, I know my job and I could do it with my eyes closed, and it's a real, you know, organized process. And I've seen how that office works. I mean, that paperwork flows really, really well.
Yep.
How do you think the cross-training, if there's a resistance to cross-training, do you have a way of, well, you'll be the boss. It's pretty much either or not.
Well,
do you think, you know those people better than I do, do you think that there will be resistance to cross-training? Do you foresee that there will be any kind of problems?
I don't really think so. A lot of the staff in there is younger. You know, we do have some older women that have been there for a long time. However, they have been involved with most of the changes in the office already. So, to some extent, they already know that. You know, they already know how to operate those things and how to, you know, do other people's jobs. But I think it would be better to be a little bit more experienced, so that if you had to take over someone's position for a day or a week, that you were comfortable enough to do it.
And know that there's no glitches for the people using the office.
Right.
One of the responsibilities of this job will be dealing with the county board, we'll be dealing with the county executive, and in some instances even the state legislature. Do you have any kind of qualms about doing any of that? How do you feel about having to deal? Your board is quite large, your county board's quite large, county executive deals with your budget. What's your comfort level with developing budgets, justifying budgets, going in front of a county board and espousing why you need XYZ or can do without XYZ? Do you feel pretty comfortable going in front of folks? And
whatever's necessary for the office, I think I would have to do whatever it takes to make things run smoothly and keep everything organized. And
great.
Well, you know, talking about county board, county executive, a few years back there was a time and motion study done of staff in the Register of Deeds office, and the position at that time of County Executive Jane Vandehei was, I believe it was that Mrs. Winninghoff didn't need as much staff as what she was asking for. Now, given some of the things that we've come to learn about Ms. Vandehei in the past year or so, I guess I have to somewhat question her position on that as well as her motivation. But are you familiar with that time and motion study, and how do you, we've kind of already addressed this, but how do you feel about the level of staffing? Do you think it's adequate then to meet the needs, and you know, how, kind of piggybacking on Mel's comment, how do you feel about saying to the county executive, hey, our needs have increased, I need more staff?
I am not familiar with the study. However, if the people of Winnebago County want their records maintained properly, should the level of records go up where we would need additional staff, I would not hesitate to go to her or to anyone else on the board to explain my situation. I would, however, look to other options besides full-time, fully compensated additional staff.
Such as?
Like part-time.
Okay.
Temporary.
Job sharing?
Right, right.
All right. Do you see things in the office right now that, and again, it's always a, you know, kind of a precarious situation to get elected to a new position and want to come in and start making changes, but You're obviously very familiar with the office. Is there anything, and it's not a slap at Sue Winninghoff at all, but just a difference in management styles, perhaps a difference in personalities? If you are elected, is there something that you see that you would want to change or streamline perhaps to best fit with your own management style and personality?
Not really. The staff that's there now, they pretty much know their jobs. Unfortunately, they'd probably have to teach me a few things about mine. But I don't see any major changes that need to take place in that office. Obviously, I'm not on the inside, so I can't say for sure. But from the outside looking in, everything seems to be working very well the way it is.
Okay. Fill me in, if you can. A lot of these positions, you will be an elected official. No one's your boss but the voters of Oshkosh. Jane Vanahay isn't your boss, but she oversees your budget. Mm-hmm. So really, you don't have anyone to answer to but those of us who vote. However, your staff is predominantly union people, correct? Are they all covered by the union?
That I don't know.
That, because to me that is probably one of the biggest challenges I see as a manager, that if there is disciplinary action, or if you do, God forbid that you have a problem with an individual mm-hmm. within the structure, you know, how does one go about taking care of that issue? If it is union, I'm presuming that there is a grievance procedure, writing up procedure, going through personnel. And I guess that's what I wanted to ask you is, you know, have you ever dealt with union, non-union, representative kind of stuff? Do you ever have to? Never.
No, never.
Well, so it'll all be very exciting.
And new.
And very exciting and new. Have you ever had to hire and fire folks in any of your positions?
I have hired.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, I've never had to fire.
Well, that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, does that mean that you're an excellent trainer and boss, or does that mean that you're just so damn nice you can't get rid of them? No.
I like the first one.
Okay, that's fair.
You know, we talked a little bit about management style and so forth. We've talked about your professional skills and what you bring to the table. Why does Sue, why, I almost called you Sue Winninghoff. No, we don't want to do that. Why does Louise Schoenike want the job when Sue Winninghoff retires? What is it about the job that is drawing you to it?
Well, the 14 years experience in the title and abstract company were very good years. Never monotonous. Everything was different every day, you know, dealing with different records and different land transactions. It's actually quite interesting to read abstracts.
I don't want to interrupt, but finish your thought and then tell folks real quickly what abstracts are, because
I'm at a loss.
Abstracts, nowadays you have title insurance.
Okay.
Back before title insurance existed, abstracts were, they weren't deeds to property, they were basically a land history.
Mm.
And most of them started out from the United States government and came forward to list all the different landowners, ridiculous restrictions, no brothels, no, you know, house of ill repute. These things, they were hilarious.
Cool.
They were hilarious.
I wouldn't
to
mind
read
reading
these.
something like that myself.
I mean, these were the old records, but it's basically just a history of the land and the ownership, mortgage history, divorce, death, all that stuff is in this abstract.
So it's kind of like a family tree
for
of
your property.
Right.
Cool.
Right. It's,
okay.
They're really very interesting.
Okay.
But I've always been fascinated by it. When I first started at the title company, I had no idea. I mean, one of the things at my interview was to type a legal description. And it wasn't like lot 2 block, whatever. It was the north 25.6 feet of, you know, and it was like this long.
Really?
And I was like, what is this? So, you know, I learned a lot there, but
Yeah.
it's really very interesting, and I guess I really think it would be an interesting, challenging position, and to be able to work in that again.
Sure.
And to explain to people.
Why did you leave the title an abstract company before?
It was a small company, and the owner had brought his daughter in, which I was very for. I really wanted her there. And a position opened up with a bank that we had worked with at the title company, and I just didn't see much advancement at that point. Plus, it was going to be a family business. So I took the experience I got from there and went into the banking and worked with mortgages and lending there. So I still took that experience with me, but I was just kind of branching off into a different area of it.
And so now, over the years, you've gained a lot of different skills that you're hoping to kind of meld together into one in the Register of Deeds office. Well, I had kind of interrupted your train of thought there. Is there any other reason why you want this position?
No.
Okay.
That's
fair.
Answer me too. Can you give a 1-minute synopsis? No.
No, the people from the title company I used to work for actually are the ones that approached me about doing this.
Really? Okay.
They thought that I would be a good candidate, that I could do the job well, and had the background
to give it a shot.
Yeah. So if I get it, I get it. But
it's always a scary thing, though, thinking about leaving what you're familiar with, and comfortable with. And venturing into something that, even though you're kind of familiar with some of the things, it's still a brand new thing. And then, of course, sitting here isn't the easiest of things either. Not something you're accustomed
You've
to
done
doing.
very well, though. I have to tell you, for somebody that you thought you were going to be real nervous, you surely have not shown it. You've been very, very gracious. I think you've done a really good job.
And she's not bloodied at all. So
no, the marks don't show. I've been kicking her under the table.
Yeah, that's why the tablecloth.
yeah, exactly.
Well, we're down to about a minute or so. Why don't you take about 30, 45 seconds, look right into that camera there, and just tell folks why they should go to the polls and vote for you on primary election day, Tuesday, September 14th.
I would like to be elected to the position because I feel I bring a lot of experience, integrity. I'm a very honest, hardworking person. I'm very familiar with the staff, and even though I'm not real fond of having to run for an office, I do feel that I could do a good job and keep the people of Winnebago County apprised of what's going on with the office.
Okay. All right. Very good. Well, thank you very much for being here. We appreciate it.
Been very
Campaign
nice hearing
season
you.
is always busy. And thanks to all of you for joining us as well. I know that a lot of people tend to kind of blow off primary election day, but every election is important. Please go to the polls on Tuesday, September 14th, and vote in the various elections that you're able to vote in. That's going to do it for this time. For Melanie Bloechl, I'm Cheryl Hentz. We'll see you next time. Until then, keep your eye on us. We've got our eye on Oshkosh. Take care.